This is Minecraft's new structure that goes by the name of Trail Ruins. It's going to be introduced in Minecraft 1.20, and in my previous video, we took the time to extract all the artifacts that you can discover. Now, in the comment section of that video, some of you suggested that the next video I should do is attempt to rebuild it to see what this old civilization could have possibly looked like in Minecraft. So hey everyone, my name is Echo. We are going to be attempting to restore the Trail Ruins to its former glory. Now, a few things I would like to mention is I know the names of some of these structures. So for example, this centered structure goes by the name of a tower. Meanwhile, the one to the left of it over here, this goes by the name of a stable. Now, I found this really interesting because in my Minecraft world, I managed to get a wandering trader naturally spawning down here. Now, these guys really have never had a place in Minecraft. Maybe this was the long lost place where this mob originally came from. And instead of just having, for example, horses inside of the stable, maybe there was also llamas as well. Now, I'm going to try and keep this build as basic as possible for two reasons. I feel like most of the structures in Minecraft are kept simplified rather than really crazily overdone. I mean, apart from the place where the warden lives. And number two, I'm not a very good builder, so that's also something I have to factor in here. Now, I found this quite interesting because this, as I mentioned in my previous video, reminds me of when we first saw archaeology all those years ago. And this is where the developers were basically cooking the clay pots. And that's like a perfect example to me of what we could do here. So what I would do is we'll grab ourselves, let's use a campfire, for example. Now we know there's going to be fire here, and then let's get ourselves a pot and scroll down. We know there was some form of fire in this location. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here, for example. Like, it smoked it out, and this is the structure that they used to do this. And like I said, we know there was some kind of fire here because, well, you've seen here that we do have the burned pottery shards. Now, we took the time to go through all the items that we discovered in my previous video, but these are all the official items that can be discovered in this location inside of either the suspicious gravel or the suspicious sand. So with this, for the likes of your food, well, we know there was some kind of food resources going on here. There was also a hoe as well, so it was basically somewhat of a smaller kind of village. For example, they didn't have redstone back in the day, so they were using candles as their light source. We have a couple of dyes here and also panes, which again would have fitted in the window, but obviously over a long period of time, they've decayed and basically gone missing. Now, we had a couple of types of woods here. Well, two of them, in fact. We had oak and we had spruce, which is an indication that around this location, those were the woods that they were able to chop down in order to help build their civilization. And then we've got, again, a few more food resources. Got the coals. I said that these were used for trading resources back in the day, and this guy is a perfect example here because, as you know, you can use emeralds to trade with him, which to me is another indication that he could have possibly lived here. And then when it comes to the likes of the armor trims, well, they needed some kind of defense. So they had, let's say, I don't know, maybe it was villagers. Maybe they had some kind of warrior version of the wandering trader. Now, some of these builds are going to be a little bit easier to build compared to the other ones. But I want to give it my shot. I want to give it my best shot at trying to build this structure. Now, when it comes to these blocks here, so these have like fallen down. So these have started to decay, and obviously over time, they've crumbled and just made their way to the floor. And it's the same for quite a few blocks up there. So let's slowly start to build this, and I'll keep you guys updated as I go along. When it comes to structures like this, like I said, some of these will be a little bit easier to build because they haven't fully lost their shape in that kind of sense. Meanwhile, things like this and things like this, well, they've completely lost everything, haven't they? So they're things that I'm going to have to just come up with in my imagination. So let's do a little bit of placing and try and restore this to former glory. So this is the first structure that I have decided to combine together, and I'm still working on trying to somewhat perfect this so it looks a little bit better. But it's really hard because when it comes to the roof design, we simply only have the terracotta blocks to mess around with. And I've been trying my best to not make every single structure just completely covered in these mud bricks. Although they do look really, really good. I'm trying my best to not just make this dominate the whole entire build. But as you guys know, in ancient civilizations, mud was used for bricks. They were used quite frequently. So maybe this was the outcome that they had intended. Now, when it comes to this room, what you'll see here, I kind of get the vibe of some kind of family home because they have high windows for some kind of privacy no one can see in. Now, left behind, of course, we know that these are part of the loot tables for this location. And I'm finding it really hard to pick the right color for in here. I was using purple to start off with, and it didn't seem too bad. And then I was deciding, should I get rid of this and have them a little bit lower, just slightly lower rather than so much higher. And I kind of like them to be a little bit lower like this and let in a little bit more sunlight. And then I was like, does that fit perfectly? I mean, it kind of makes sense to have that there. So I was like, that just fits there. But then was this going to be a design like this? You see what I mean? And there's so many different possibilities. And I'm just doing what I think Mojang intended us to do. And that's build it based on our own lore theories on what we think looks good. So I'm just taking the time to put the stable together, which I found to be one of the easier builds to construct. Made out of some very basic blocks, but I'm trying to keep an eye on this. And upon doing it, I discovered that there is a secret room down here. Now, when I was looking at this room, I was like, is that attached to something a little bit different? And it turns out it's not, but this is actually how the design, I think, was meant to go. I thought, is it going to attach to this building? And it doesn't. It's just a separate little hideout, which could have been used to store things such as the saddles or leads. Just break these a little bit here. So I think it was probably around about this size. And then on the walls, they would have had the saddles. They would have had the leads. They could have had food inside of here, which is where they would have then taken it towards the stables, of course, to feed the animals. And I have really found this such an interesting build to do. And I'm just making sure these are the right size here. So that's going to go there. Well, we had a few of the red blocks on the floor here. So we know that these have obviously fallen down from the roof, and that would have been like that. And again, these are not meant to be here, and I think this is meant to go through here like a simple pattern design. That way? Not that way. Would it have been this way? How have I done that? That would go to... We need to try and get the point to face this way, and then another point to face the complete opposite way. So sometimes these are like the worst blocks. There you go. Sometimes these are the worst blocks to deal with. So I've grabbed some oak and I've grabbed some spruce. Again, linked to the story of them having oak and wood signs. And I've just been having a look at which one looks better inside of here for the horse stables. And I think the oak one might stand out a little bit more, but this is just going to be each to their own, depending on how you kind of like it. And like I said, we're going to close this off like this, for example, and we'll have these going across here. And we would have, obviously, I feel like we would have a horse, but I also think there would be some kind of trader llama. And the guy that was looking after these would have been the trader, not the llamas. So I'm not necessarily doing this in any kind of order. When I look at a specific area, and I feel like that's how it would have previously been, I've just been adding bits by bits. And something I recently noticed is that when I had these broken, there was actually a few foundations underneath them. And I came up with like a lore theory that although Bedrock doesn't have the new sniffer plant that would go inside of here, and this would be protected and could have been linked to the sniffer as well all those years ago. Now, for now, we will just use the rose bush as a prime example. But maybe this civilization was around when the sniffer was around, and they used those plants to also have the sniffer as pets, or maybe they used them as livestock. Maybe they used them for trading. They are pretty big. Maybe they could have had a saddle on them all those years ago. So I am just very slowly starting to build the tower. The tower is quite self-explanatory because, again, it is some kind of symmetrical build here. And I also noticed that we do have some kind of stairs going all the way down. very similar to what we do have in the end dimension as well. I'm just trying to make sure we can get up and we can get down without any kind of complications here. And then these would have been on top of there. This would have been on top of there. And I'm trying to get this design right, and you can see how that goes there. So that's going to also go here like this. Is there one of these or two of these? Just one of them. And they kind of meet together. And this is also going to be the same over here. And you can kind of see how the design is on the inside there as well. So that's obviously going to go there. We're going to have that going there. This going here. And this is honestly such a pleasure thing to do. Just seeing how this civilization once lived a very, very long time ago. And we've already got them going on. And then we do need to get another one of them. Put that inside of there. That's going to go around there. Same with these. Again, I've been placing, breaking, placing, breaking. Just tweaking it ever so slightly. Rather than overthinking this whole entire process of how it possibly could have looked. I've just been doing it block by block, bit by bit, and that's I think they would have been used for windows, but I don't quite think the glass panes would have fitted inside of there. And considering it's got the name tower, I generally think it was used for guards, which to me brings the armor trims to life, because whoever was protecting it up here would have been using them and could have called out if any kind of enemy was trying to turn up. So I decided to take the two pillars that were here, which would have been these, because they just didn't seem to fit in very well. And I noticed that these designs are somewhat very similar, but this one is not, because this one bends this way, which is an indication that this could have been where their weapons were stored. In case they did get attacked, they need to quickly get to the weapon room. Or if they need to go and attack someone, they have access to the horses. And I really like the lore theory behind that one. And I was thinking, how could I possibly do this? And again, this would have been a little bit more protected. And this one might not have necessarily had any windows to prevent any kind of stealing happening. And I did notice, again, I am heavily using the mud bricks, but they just seem to make sense in these ancient kind of structures. And this is what we've got going on down here so far. But we do need to figure out a way up there. And I do have this way as a way to get to the next level. But then would there have been something here which would have brought you to this level, which then would have then taken you to the top? You see what I mean here? So this is definitely missing like another one of these, maybe like here. That's the vibe I get right now. And then possibly one more there. And then you would have been at the top. But I'm still figuring that out. So I am just adding a couple of extra additions to the tower. I've been using oak, but I haven't really used any of the spruce, and there was spruce signs available. So I've kind of gone with this design for now, but I've also decided that I feel like it fits at the top here as well. Obviously, they need something to lean on while they're looking on the outside. I didn't feel like it fitted too much there, to be honest with you. But what I did feel is I did feel that the mud bricks also looked pretty good on here. Again, gone very mud brick and very mud in general heavy in this build. But it's so fitting, and it works and contrasts really well with this kind of build. And plus, they've got it on the lower decks, and they had it on the lower decks. So why wouldn't it be up there as well? And by far, the tower structure is one of the favorite things I've put together. Now, I was looking at the road as well, and a lot of it is cobble, but prior to that, it looks like stone brick was one of the main blocks that would have been used. And I've just been go ahead and replacing some of the cracked versions, because again, in some kind of civilization, they don't want any kind of cracked variation symbolizing who they are. They want to make sure they look pretty good. So I decided to take the brown glazed terracotta, but also this and the bricks, and use it in this room as well. Because when I came into this room, I already noticed that they were already using the brown version. And I thought it kind of just makes sense. They probably would have had it in both areas. And again, I never realized how tedious these blocks are to work with sometimes, getting them in the perfect shape. And instead of going with that, I thought, you know what? Let's just put these right in the middle. So considering I decided to call this, what I am going to call it, like the danger room, I decided to get rid of the brown. I decided that, you know what, if we're going to use this as our weapons storage, it needs to be in a reddish color, which just symbolizes some kind of danger in my opinion. And I decided to just start replacing a bunch of the brown. Again, it's probably not the theory that a lot of people have in mind, but in my mind, that's what I have going on. Again, this is literally what I've been doing in between like the cutting. between the recordings, I've just been splitting it up bit by bit. And once again, we are going to be using some kind of spruce here as protection. No one can get in. I would use iron bars, but something tells me in those ancient civilizations, they weren't using iron just yet. They were still using their wooden versions. And I extended this ever so slightly here. And obviously we would have armor stands here with weapons, which again is something I am planning to do at some point. And I was looking at the outside just to make sure it looks pretty good. But this is where we do end up using a lot of the mud variations as well, because it just contrasts very well. And I like over using this as in my builds like this, as you can see here. So we're just going to keep extending these very slightly. We'll do it to about there. You can still see the decoration going on, though. You can still see how it was. We don't need that one there. Or do we need that there? How did I do it on that side? No, that's right. And then, of course, add these around here. And then maybe add them there as well. There you go. Definitely looks like a room that was somewhat protected. If we could use lanterns, I'd have them sticking out with lanterns as well. But there was no lanterns in the official loot tables. So I decided to have a little look at some of the things I haven't really used to try and make sense of how it would have looked. And I noticed that we have the friend pottery shard, which in my opinion symbolizes the iron golem. I noticed when I was trying to build this, the structure I could not figure out was this at all. And then I was like, is this meant to be a statue of like an iron golem, which was the protector? Maybe this was the children. As you know, iron golems, they love to protect and play with the villagers' children. Well, that's the only theory I had, and I really couldn't make sense of what this was meant to be. So that is something you guys are going to have to help me out with in the comment section. And maybe you guys have recreated it, and maybe you do have another theory, which is a little bit different from mine. The other thing I do want to say is every other structure that I've started to build kind of made sense. A lot of it was like copy and paste and really easy to understand. Like going in the stable, going into what I call the armory room, the tower. But this little area over here really is eluding me and something I'm struggling to reconstruct. Now, I have placed down a few, and I noticed like here when I came in from this direction, that this does have a staircase to the next level. So I'm still somewhat trying to put this together. It does have a lot of mud bricks inside of here. So was the mud bricks meant to be like the first floor? So I decided to settle for what I've gone for. This being the communal garden, this being one group house, this being another one. And this one, well, I don't really know what to say with this one. I'm just going to have to say that this is lost in time. And when I mean lost in time, it's lost in time to me, and I've accepted that I just can't build this one. I've tweaked it, I've changed it. I just cannot seem to settle for something I like, and it's definitely one of the buildings in this whole entire structure that just really makes life difficult to understand as to what is going on. But I think at this point, I'm probably just going to get rid of the stairs. I just don't think it needs stairs in this building. Considering the other ones don't have that going on, I've decided just to stick with this. And I think at this point, it's now time for me to do some interior design. And I'm going to add some extra additions as my iron golem is protecting the village for us. And just like that, civilization is flourishing once again. Now, I would like to say I have never done anything like this before. And it took me a combined of 2 hours to fully complete. And I hope this is going to inspire you to also do the same. Maybe in the future, I can check out your downloads and see what you created. But I want to run you through what I created and get your opinions in the comments section. So I'm sticking with the theory of the Iron Golem statue there. He's right there. We already have our workers attending to their crops, considering over there, we have what is called the housing area, the group area. I imagine people would be living there. Now, this really strange building was just so difficult to deal with. But we have the beds here, really simple. They were just here to sleep, and then they were straight back to work. Now, inside of here, I've decided to put some wolves. And the reason why is because we discovered here that you can get pottery shards, which this one's, I'm not sure which one this one is called. It doesn't tell me. We'll go and quickly double check. We just type in pottery shards, or we type in shards here. It's going to tell us, I think it's called friend. Howl, sorry, that's Howl. So, considering we did have dogs here, they are also going to need a place to stay, and this just made sense to me. Now, we're just going to ignore that I haven't done anything out here. Maybe this was just a communal chatting area. Maybe they set up barbecues here. I really don't know, because this was a really strange structure. Again, there is a few other different variations of these structures that can generate in your world. And for this one, again, this is more of the leader, in a way. Has a private room rather than being housed and grouped together. And I decided to do a couple of decorations here. The pots that are currently in the fire, well, they're not ready for decorating just yet. They need to harden. And I just added a couple around there. But I was really proud of this room, which I called the pottery store, where these were combined and made together. And I just really liked it. And I've kept the campfire there because we know that fire was used to harden these as well. And some of them have designs on. We just got some regular dead bushes inside of here and a chimney. Now, I'm colorblind, so ignore the color glass combination in here. So I do apologize with that. And the new one that is linked to the sniffer is what I would have there. I've chosen to use oak around my area just because for me it was quite fitting. And we've got these going on here, and then it just says tower, do not enter. And I was really proud of this because, again, because of the shards that you can discover here, it looks like we got some kind of armor here. I decided to put all the suits inside of here. Obviously, inside of here, there would also be swords, bows, crossbows. We have these going on inside of here. And I tried to make these linked together. It was really hard, but I just really liked the cyan concrete. So I combined them together. And then we go through here. And down here, I decided to put the saddles on the wall, which is what I described to you. Leads in there. We've got extra water and, of course, extra food to feed the horses and the llamas. And, of course, that is going to be your stables. And this is where they would make the saddles. This is where they would combine everything before they took the horses or even llamas out on adventures. And, of course, I added a little bit of water in there because I don't want my animals to be dying. And then up here, well, I kept this basic because this would just be a passageway in my eyes to get to the tippity top. And there really wasn't anything going inside of here because this was pure and simply just going to be a lookout point to make sure we didn't get in any kind of trouble. And I'm going to run the cinematic one more time just to see what it does look like. So I've got to admit, I was incredibly nervous to share this video, but also really excited to share the outcome at the same time. I don't class myself much as a builder, but seeing this structure somewhat built up really did make me appreciate this new structure introduced more than people are giving it credit. Like I said, hopefully you guys can recreate this a lot better than me. I would love to know your lore theories behind this creation. Have a wonderful day.